Oh, EDLS 706 candidates. It's Dr. Palermo on October 3rd. It's week 6 of our 15 weeks in the fall 17 semester, and um, I hope to inspire some big thinking on your part this week with the readings and with the assignments that you're working on. In TIAC and Cuban, I've been reviewing what I'd read this week. Why the grammar of schooling persists. Little has changed in the way schools divide time and space, classify students, allocate them into classrooms, splinter knowledge into subjects, and award grades and credits as evidence of learning. This is what TIAC and Cuban call the grammar of schooling, the rules and regulations, the structure, the organization that has remained remarkably unchanged over a century. Anyway, some interesting reading there in chapter 4. Please do that and do respond with some thoughts later. Interesting how the College Board was involved here. Loved reading about the Dalton Plan, which I guess I'd heard of before, in the 8-year study. TIAC and Cuban, again, is a little bit dated now because, excuse me, but interesting and fascinating. Carnegie units. In one of my first jobs as a guidance counselor, I thought that Carnegie units, counting credits, counting up GPAs in high school guidance that was why I existed. And the history of the Carnegie unit was pretty fascinating to me. Also in 1976, I was doing that with longhand division before the advent of calculators and computer-generated GPAs. So there's some history for you. But Carnegie units, interesting stuff. And then we are going to be finishing TIAC and Cuban soon, and you should be shifting over to the PLC work. So there, chapter 3 on the complexity of the change process, it was kind of interesting. Cotter's common mistakes of the change process on page 51 in my text. It was kind of interesting. And now it's been my experience in the few years that I was a principal that implementing PLCs did not always stick. So in the language of reform and the complexity of change, why do things like PLCs go backwards sometimes? Or if you want to try to comment on PLCs and their state in your school or district, and again, why do they go backwards? Well, perhaps you want to comment on the complexity of the change process, as well as weaving some ideas from TIAC and Cuban in here. Well, one other big idea this week is that you are working on these research papers and presentations, and in another week or so, we're going to meet again and you're going to present them. I was a little bit uncomfortable with the way that I had thrown that assignment out there, adapted it from Dr. Boyle's, and not presented you with a way to rate your papers and presentations. That's not going to work. Hold on here. Okay. Share screen. Okay. Now you should be able to see that. Here's a little rubric that I've created, and I wanted you to know that you will have feedback from me next when we meet and you present these papers and reform ideas. You are presenting one reform, and the big idea is that I want you to be able to present it to others so that the key concepts of the reform are there, that you have presented an analysis and commented. Dr. Boyle said that in his little introduction, but you should take a position on this reform. Good, bad, indifferent, take a position on it, please. And he had a minimum of 10 pages and 15 references, so that's the proficient standard. And again, I try to distinguish sometimes between your always exemplary work and sometimes some that falls a little short of that, but is proficient. I don't expect less than proficient, but we'll see. Then when it comes time for your presentations, all that it said was a 20-minute presentation. Well, PowerPoint, Prezi, engage us in some activity. It doesn't matter how you do this. I've scheduled you 30 minutes next weekend, but at least a 20-minute presentation. So something in that window would be fine. Presenting again the key concepts and analysis and commentary on the reform. If you can engage us, that will be all the great, even better. And again, an exemplary paper or presentation wouldn't have any errors in spelling, grammar, or style. APA style, don't forget to use for that paper. So I will give you some feedback after next weekend, and that's roughly what I'm going to be looking for. I don't see any numbers or letters on that, Dr. Palermo. I expect them to be A's unless you fall short in one or more of the categories. So there's your letter. Thanks. Have a great week. Work on these papers. Work on read tinkering and PLCs. Enjoy and see you soon.